Hi everyone, thanks for looking at my videos. This is the last one on the tarot in terms of explaining the Major Arcana, the Minor Arcana, the system of the tarot. And so working with the Major Arcana now, and Arcana means keys. The first one, which is number 0, is the Fool. The Fool represents the soul on a new journey in life. It's about new experiences, gathering information experiences. He's got a little dog here that's like a guardian, and above his head you see the symbol of the sun here in the corner. And so carefree, without a care in the world, it can mean innocence, but it can also mean foolishness or being the fool. Upside down it would render that kind of meaning. But right side up is someone who can move around and being carefree and gathering experience and at the beginning of things. That's the 0 card. The number 1 is the Magician. So the Magician has some deep symbolism. You can see that on the table are the cups, the pentacles, the sword, and the wand. And in his hand is a double terminated crystal. Above his head is a symbol of infinity. And he kind of represents willpower or God's will. But the Magician, like the Fool, can have a negative connotation and be an architect of deviousness. So someone who creates. The male principle is also represented by this card. And these are some of the meanings. So there's the 0, then there's the 1. And just like in the Minor Arcana, the pips, there was 1 through 10, excuse me. And there's the High Priestess, and she sits between 2 pillars of the dark blue and the white. And she has symbols of the moon, things that are unknown. She also carries the Torah. Now, this is one of the more Jewish mysticism pictures in the tarot. You could read up more on this if you do a deeper study of the tarot, but she represents duality, things that are secret, things in potential. Upside down would be someone who is fickle and untrustworthy. That's number 2. Number 3 is the Empress. This is a good card for Gaia, the Earth, for instance. She has a symbol of Venus. And some of the cards do have their astrological symbols on them. You just got to see them in there. She sits on the throne of red, which is representative of desire. She wears a crown, and she's the guardian of the earth. And see all the wheat here and grass, and so that's why she's a good symbol for abundance, for Gaia, for the earth. So the third principle is when the 0, the 1, and the 2 get together, create the third in the tree of life and manifestation. Then there is the 4th, which represents the male aspect on earth, on the physical plane. And this is the Emperor. The Emperor has the symbols of Aries right there on the chair, the rams there. The symbol of the sun is kind of that yellow in the back, red mountains for Mars. Again, symbols of Aries on the chair here. He wears a crown, carries the scepter of power. And so this represents the 4, which is stability, power, rulership. That's some of the meanings of the 4, the Emperor. Number 5, the Hierophant, is like the Pope and some other decks, but it's a number 5. And in the Major Arcana represents authority, whether it's religious authority or governmental authorities, some sort of higher authority. The number 5 is a shifting number, so this is a card that can also represent changes, like upside down with governments, order, religion, one's stability, or how one believes, like the change in the belief structure, religious belief or spiritual belief, and that's number 5. And then there's the Lovers card that represents choice. There's a male, female, the Garden of Eden, Archangel Raphael up there, and the sun behind the angel. And they're innocent. There's a snake close to Eve. And the tree has some of the fruit, I believe, on the other side. And then there's these flowers that represent desire. And the sun, again, being the giver of life. The card really represents choice, making a choice between things, between real love or fake love, or people coming together for some kind of procreative purpose. But in general, it means balance and choice. Number 6. Number 7 is a chariot, or the charioteer. The man rides a kind of a wagon with the symbols of Egypt, and the Sphinx, the dark one, and the one of light, represent the gods of light and darkness. Hermes, the god of healing, is right there. The symbol looks like a bird above it. There's a lot of deep symbolism in this card. The celestial over the crown here, symbols of being in contact with the higher forces, divine forces. This is a card of perfection, of balance, of power, of someone who can manage their personality. We could look at some of these meanings as how the personality is developing, or the soul. And at this point, the soul has developed some level of mastery between the forces of lightness and the forces of dark. But then, number 7, the chariot. Number 8, card of strength. Maiden with the symbol of infinity above her head there, has the sun, the energy of the sun, again the yellow in the sky, opening the mouth of the lion. The lion represents the ego, or the lower body desires, and having the strength to control one's passions, one's desires. So this is a great card of power, number 8. Self-control is a way you can look at that card for a mundane type reading. Get some more in here. So there is that sense of completion coming up here with the number 9. The number 9 is the Hermit. So wise old man carries, actually the Star of David is inside that lantern, carries a rod of austerities up the mountain, or up in the mountains. It represents the great teacher. It can be a symbol for Saturn. Learning one's tasks in lives, finishing up lessons, experience, seeking wisdom, being isolated in order to seek wisdom is one of the meanings of this card. But you certainly want to think of, okay, things have reached the climax, the end, with the number 9, the Hermit, and then comes the Wheel of Fortune. So, the sequence. And the miracle sequence continues. Well, that's our first 10 cards, and then we've got Justice, number 11. Just want to collect these. Again, laying them out in front of you is a good way to see the patterns. You have a table that you can lay things on. First, when you're studying the tarot, just get a sense of the schematics. Justice as literally means what it says, justice, higher karma, karma changing, higher power, the pillars, the robe of desire or purity, the crown that she wears, the beautiful purple canopy in the back, and again the symbol of the sun in the yellow at the top. And she carries the scales on one hand and the sword in the other. So the scales represent, and we see that in this, what is it, the Six of Pentacles also has the scales. So you see here the scales. About things in balance, about finding justice is balance. And the sword represents authority, that there is a higher authority, not just man's courts, but what we call karmic, God's court, so to speak. So that's 11, and then 12 comes the Hangman. This is another card that's really rich in symbolism. It does relate to the old Norse god Odin, who hung on the cross. So do a lot of the Christ symbols. The myth of Mithras goes back to the ancient world, the sacrifice for humanity to gain wisdom. Is one of the means of this card is illumination. He's hanging upside down, which means suspension, like when you're hanging. Or like when you're doing a headstand in yoga, it means asadmati, or illumination. So commonly, a card that through sacrifice, in terms of meaning, we gain illumination. So it's kind of a basic general meaning would be things in suspension. Prophecy fulfilled or false prophecies, upside down. So such rich symbolism too. I mean, even his body is like a cross, the way he hangs there. That's 12. 11, 12, 13 is a number of change and transformation, and so we get the death card, and everybody's afraid of the death card. Eventually we all die, or things are reborn again. Change, transformation, it's also a card that means things in transition, or the ending of, let's say, a corporation, or it could also mean death during war, things like that. And you see people with power have been slain. There's a woman, there's a pope, there's some kind of king. But then there's that riverway again, which means a better future ahead. And the sun is way back here on this side. Whoops. Get my, right there's the sun. The back of the card, you can see it. And that's, I think if I remember correctly, that flag was used in Scotland during the war. That's number 13, number of change and transition and endings. Then comes Temperance, and this is another card with rich symbolism. Usually I think of this as Archangel Michael. But the angel is pouring from one cup to the other. And it's not water, it's energy. So it could be co-ruled by Aquarius, for instance. There's illumination in the crown up here, all this gold. And he's pouring one cup of liquid into the other, the idea of alchemy, formulas, getting the right balance, the right ingredients together. The sun is in the background. He has one foot in the water and the other foot on land. So alchemy can affect us as it does nowadays with chemicals in the water and on the earth. So we need to find the right balance. On the personality level, this card represents a personality that is balanced, that has a sense of inner perfection. Well, that's number 15. No, number 14, sorry. Number 14. Then comes 15, the devil. And the devil is a yicky, gruesome looking card. It's a man and a woman, they're naked, and they're bound by chains to this pedestal that the devil sits on. See the chains there, and he's a symbol of bad magic, as the star is turned upside down that he wears on his crown. Being controlled by the lower forces, evil intent, bondage, criminality, drugs, abuse, sexual abuses, all kinds of abuses. It's also a profound card of trauma. Individual who's really traumatized cannot make choices. The 15 reduces 1 plus 5 equals 6 is the first card of the 6 is the Lovers. And so we've got these two are related, the Lovers. So either we come together by choice with people for positive outcomes, or we come together by dire circumstances with negative outcomes. So choice has a lot to do with what we choose in life, and the choice is always ours. Oops, I'm trying to keep this in the frame. Sorry, folks. Okay. Some ideas to think about. The 6th, and that was the 15th. So after the 15th, after all this drama and trauma, the soul has a shift in consciousness in the Tower. So the Tower also has deep symbolism. There's lightning hitting the crown up here. People are falling out of the windows. There's clouds, there's lightning. It represents false beliefs, having to do with if we believe that we have our security in materialism, we will truly fall from our false tower of security. So it's a card that can be chaotic and dramatic, but for the better. And to me, this is like a Uranus card. Lightning hits the tower. All right, so 15, 16, number 17 is the Star of Hope, of peace, of healing. She's naked, pouring from one vase into the water, and also from the other into the earth. It also has Aquarius symbolism. The stars is actually the Pleiades, who do watch over us if you understand UFO or alien mythologies. So it's a card of meditation, of hope. Things will get better. Have hope and faith. Through the purity will come again. Let's say if this came up after a big war or something on the planet, it would mean that things would get restored again to purity. I always think of the nakedness as purity, purity of the soul. And there's a little bird right there in the tree. which represents intuition. Messengers from God in the old traditions. Birds are always messengers. Okay, number 17th. Number 18th is the moon. The full moon, you can see the sun and moon together. And then there's these animals in the forefront representing the scorpion, the amphibian times, the dogs, the canine, the wild dog, the domesticated dog, and then these pillars. Now the pillars represent the astral plane going into consciousness. So this is a card of consciousness, this is a card of the psyche, this is a card of dreams. It's also, because it's a full moon, it can be a card of illusions, deceptions, where we need to clean up our subconscious or deal with subconscious forces. So, what else can I say about the 18? There are those yods again, coming in from the Jewish mysticism that influenced the making of these cards. So they're like energy, symbols of energy. Nowadays we might think of them as quantum, but symbols of divine energy emanates from the sun and moon. Sun and moon also being symbols of our consciousness and our astrology. The sun and the moon, the pillars. The pillars of materialism, and then we go into the psychic realm. Well, that's what this transition is about in the cards. So we can transition from cetacean, amphibians, to the animal states of vegetation, to the human state, which is really a consciousness, being of consciousness. That's what humans are supposed to be, right? Way of thinking about it. And here is the sun. Yay, the sun is opening. The light comes forth. The sun is shining. The child is riding a white horse of purity. It's the beginning of a new, it's like the breakthrough from the old ego structures into a new one. The red cape there is of desire. Desires, the sunflowers are symbols of happiness, and the sun is the awakening, the awareness, the illumination of consciousness. So a person can have a breakthrough and feel free. So true freedom is the awareness of consciousness, of one's own illumination. As taught by, like, the Buddhists and some of the Hindu traditions. That was 1819, and if you do the numerology, the 19 is the 1 plus the 9 equals 10 equals 1 again, so everything's reduced to the lowest common denominator. Number 20 is the judgment. So you see people rising out of their graves. There's Archangel Gabriel blowing his horn. And then there's that red cross symbol up there, the banner. An awakening, a spiritual awakening, like the world wakes up to a new spiritual calling, waking up to a spiritual calling, or having a more spiritual calling, awareness of that is the meaning of this card. And the 20 is a final decision, like when your higher self makes a decision for you. This is a good way to look at this card. In a regular spread. And everything is depending on the cards around it. When you do a reading, that's how you get the message. Then there is 21, the world. Again, like in the Wheel of Fortune, we see the angel, the eagle, the lion, the bull here. And the maiden has 2 double terminated wands, and the wreath of completion, continuity, and this is the card of completion. There's other deeper symbolism in this. You can read about that. But basically think of this one as success, total completion, self-mastery if you're reading the cards from the perspective of, okay, how much evolution do I need to go through? How much growth do I have? That's also the card of self-mastery. Okay, so that's the Major Arcana. Again, try to lay them all out on a table so you can get a good sense of what they look like in sequence, like events that are happening with the soul's evolution. So for readings, send me an email at ymvpsychic at gmail.com, or check out my website, yourhighermedium.com, or put a message in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.